Today is another day for branch training on demand. And today's training has to do with editing photos for the website and also for social media. Some members of the team have said, well, I don't have an editing software package. So I've got good news for you today. Today we're going to look at getting a free software package that will allow you to take pictures on your phone, edit them, and then send them to the social media team and also to the website. First thing I like to do is go out to your app store, and I want you to look up on that app store PhotoShop Express. And once you search for that, this is a free package, by the way. And once you search and find that package, then I want you to load it on your system, and then you can begin the process of going over editing this software. You'll notice that once the software opens, it opens to the last few pictures that I have loaded to my cell phone. And I'm going to select a couple of those pictures so that we can go through some editing processes and talk about the power of this simple program on your cell phone. So let's go and pick out a picture just for the sake of a typical picture you might take in some type of event. And then this will also give us a chance to look at the interface and what we can also do with this picture. Along the bottom row, you will see the different options that are available to you. One of the key options sometimes is being able to crop the picture. Also, you might need to lighten or darken the picture. You'll be able to do all of this in the PhotoShop Express. So let's start with something simple. The block that you see around the picture identifies what the size of the picture is currently. That's the untouched version of the picture. And you have several options that you can do in terms of selecting. If you scroll along the bottom there, you'll see different types of boxes. For instance, if I was going to Instagram, it would allow me to automatically crop it in a square, and then I would take my finger and move the picture around in that square until it fit what I wanted. If I did not want to go to Instagram with that particular one, and now with all the changes coming along, then you can find other sizes. 4x6 is a great size for you to use as well. So I'm going to crop it at 4x6. What that does is it allows me to then put the people in the picture so that it fills the frame rather than you have all of that blank space. Now that I've got that square, I still may want to do some other editing to it. So if you grab one of the handles, you can even bring the picture so that the people are in the frame even a little bit better than they were initially. That's a 4x6. If I wanted to do a 7x5, as you can see, that particular frame is more horizontal than it is vertical. Or as some people in the photography world like to say, it's more landscape than it is portrait. So we're going to stick with the 4x6 as a typical picture size that you would want to send. Now I will say that if you decide to use a 5x7, that's great when you have groups of 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 people going across. That's a great way to shoot them as well. So consider those two sizes, 4x6 and 5x7. We're going to go back to the 4x6. I'm going to leave them in this particular pose. And then our next button is right next to it. It allows us now to look at the picture and see if it's dark, if it's light, if we need to make some changes. At the bottom, you'll see highlighted is the exposure. And then you'll see a little blue button there in the middle that will either allow you to increase the exposure, and I'm overdoing it of course, or bring it down to a level that you think is acceptable. If you click the next square, which is the contrast, if you thought the picture needed a little bit more contrast, then you can start working with that dial as well to get the feeling that you want from the picture. The next button allows you to either lighten or darken the highlights. Okay, with the highlights, you'll see only the whites or the lighter colors. They will get lighter, or if you need to, sometimes you will darken those colors. For the most part, I like the contrast on this right now, so I don't need to change that. The shadows are also the same situation. Look at the black pants on the gentleman there. If I go to the left with that dial, the pants get darker. If I go to the right, the pants get lighter. I'm going to go back to the middle because the blacks look pretty good at that particular point. And then the whites work the same way. We've talked about that. And then if you want to move into the temperature and the color, you can. But once you usually get the darks and the lights, and then you get the crop, that's about all you will need to do to work with this picture. So now we have a picture ready to go. We can do at this particular point, if we wanted to, we can go up to the top in the right hand corner. And if we're finished with this picture, we can decide where we want to send this picture. In our case, we could send it back to the camera roll with the changes on it, or we could automatically send it to Facebook, Instagram, or some other source. In most cases, you will want to send it back to your camera roll and then email it out to the necessary people to make sure we get it published. So I'm going to close this picture. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go back. I don't want to save this picture because I want to pick up another picture and see if we can make some more dramatic changes on this particular picture. And in this case, I'm going to go down to a 4x6 again. In my case, though, I want to take the handles and I want to get what I'm going to call a close-up. So I'm going to move in a little bit closer to make sure we get close to a head and shoulder, and we have the angle that I want. Then I'm going to move to the next and look at the exposure on it. Increase that exposure just a little bit for that person in the picture. And then I'm going to go maybe to the highlights and see what that looks like. If we move that around, that looks pretty good right there. My favorite buddy there in the picture is Tupac, by the way. That's my favorite dog. I'm going to go into his area and look at the shadows on him and see if we can make him a little bit darker. There he is right there. And lastly, we're going to take the whites in the background, because I know the background was white, and lighten it up a little bit. And always check your blacks, your dark colors, to make sure we got a good contrast. We got the good contrast. So that allows you at that particular point to edit the picture and then send it. Now, what if you don't like this setup? What can you do? We have the famous undo button here, which will take us back to where we were. By using the undo button, it removes all of the changes that you have made in terms of your light and your filters. Now, I can redo it by hitting the button the other way until I get back. And now that gets me back to all the changes that I made also. Once I like those changes, we start the process all over again, and then we can send that picture. Now, one more point. If you notice the size of the picture, it's a little bit larger than the size that we had talked about in terms of sending information for the social media. By clicking on that area called size, you're able to get closer to the picture size that you need to send to fit within the social media. In our case, we're going to go to the first one, 533 by 800. And once we do that, that resizes the picture for us. And then we are able to now send this picture in the size that we want. I'm going to save this picture back to the camera roll. And now when I get ready, I leave here, I go to my camera roll, I will see the new picture that's sitting here versus this was the original, and here are the changes that we made to that original. I can now go out and send that as an email. In this case, we're going to send it to the communications person at the NAACP Dekalb.org. I send it there, and then guess what? We're on, I forgot to put a subject. So make sure you put a subject, And in this case, this was a awards ball. And if you would, in the picture, tell exactly what went on, who was there, and then you hit send. That's how you do it. A quick rundown of Photoshop Express. I'll leave all the details in the description about this particular package so that you are able to then download it and begin using this to help get more pictures and more information to the communications team at the branch.